Today we're going to be covering 41 through 60. So let's go ahead and start with the very first one. It asks us to write the word sentence as an inequality. Who would like to help me with the first one here? Janet, go ahead. A number r minus 6 is at least 3.5. Okay, how many of you would agree and yours looks like that? Greater than or equal to? Okay, so as you're working through that, you can memorize in your head that at least is always going to be greater than or equal to, but you can also figure out in your head a number r minus 6 is at least 3.5. That means it can equal 3.5, okay, but it's got to be bigger than 3.5, so we're going to have greater than or equal to 3.5, okay? Let's go to the next one. Twice the number y plus 4 is less than 12. Nehemiah, what'd you put?
2y plus 4 is less than 12.
Very good. Okay, so the main thing to know on that one is twice the number y means 2 times y. Any questions on those two? All right, let's do a couple more examples that look just like that. Number 43, Nikki, twice the number x is at most negative 25.
2x is less than or equal to negative 25.
2x is less than or equal to negative 25. That is correct. Once again, twice a number, 2 times x, is at most. That means this right here is the biggest it can possibly be. So everything over here has got to be smaller than negative 25. Okay, very good job, Nikki. Final one. The quotient of a number m and 8 is less than or equal to 4. Hunter, what'd you do?
M plus 8 is less than or equal to 4.
Okay, so let's go ahead and focus on this. The first thing, the quotient. What does quotient mean? It does not mean adding. Dividend, divisor, quotient. What is that? Divide. Okay, so how should we write divide? M over 8. Okay, so for a quotient, we're going to have m over 8, or m divided by 8 is less than or equal to 4. Does that make sense? So you want to just make sure, once again, if you don't have the right answer, that's okay. We're helping you write your notes right now, so you want to go ahead and erase it and fix it. Make sure it looks just like this. Just remember, quotient, this is one of those words you got to have memorized. That means to divide. For 45 and 46, it says to write an inequality that would represent the situation. So once again, as you can see here, I've given you 2 examples. On your midterm, there's just going to be 1 example of each of these kinds of problems. So how would I do this first one, William?
Okay, you would do it.
I'll help you as we work through it. The first thing you want to do is put a variable, okay? Next, we're going to put a number. William, do you know what number we're going to put? 18. Whatever it is that circle is on, that's the number we're going to put. Now, the hardest part is figuring out what the symbol is going to be in the middle. Can it equal 18? Yes, because it's shaded in, we know it can equal 18. And then if it says 19 is an option, and if we kept going, 20 is an option, 21 is an option, what would it be? Does it need to be greater than 18 or less than 18? Greater than, okay? So the answer is going to be x is greater than or equal to 18. And if you remember, we kind of talked about it before, that this arrow looks like the greater than symbol, and it needs to face the same direction as that greater than symbol, okay? Once again, if you didn't get it correct, go ahead and erase it. Who wants to do 46 for me? All right, Taylor, go ahead.
So you write down. I think I did this.
Let's just start with the variable. It's going to be very much like the last one. Okay, good job. Then write your number.
I have negative 6.
Negative 6. Can it equal negative 6? No, right here, because that's an open circle, it cannot equal negative 6. So now you just got to figure out, is it less than or is it greater than? So look at this number. Is that number less than negative 6 or is that number greater than negative 6? Negative 7 is actually smaller. Okay. Okay, so what should the symbol be? Less than, okay? Because as I keep coming over here, I'll eventually get to a negative 100. Negative 100 is less than negative 6, so we know that our symbol also needs to be less than. And once again, you can check. This symbol looks like this, and this symbol needs to look the same as that one, okay? This says to solve the inequality and then graph the solution. Charbel, how do I get the variable to be by itself?
You would add 4.
Good job. I'm going to go ahead and add 4 to both sides. Go ahead. What should I keep doing?
Then
Okay, on the left side, this cancels out. What am I left with on the left?
10.
On the left side?
Wait, on the left side. Oh yeah, you're left with 1 on the left side.
Y. Then you're going to go ahead and drop down your symbol, and as he said, 10. So this is our correct answer. Am I finished?
No.
No. What's it asked me to do?
To graph the solution.
Graph the solution. Charbel, how many points should be on my graph?
3.
3 of them. What goes in the middle?
10 would be middle.
Good job. What's to the left and the right?
To the left would be 9, and to the right is 11.
Excellent. Is this an open or a closed circle?
Open.
Okay, we know that this is going to be an open circle because it cannot equal the 10. And should I go to the right or the left?
To the right.
Okay, we want to go to the right, saying that all solutions will be greater than 10. Madison, number 48. What should I do first? Very good. The first thing that I want to do is flip the 2 sides because we always want our variable to be on the left-hand side. So now I'm basically taking this, and we're going to flip these 2 sides. Okay, so on the left-hand side is going to be negative 2x plus 6. If I'm flipping those 2 sides, then what should I do to my symbol? Also flip the symbol, okay? Now we are ready to begin the problem. Alexis, what up there are considered best friends? Negative 2x, okay? So I'm going to keep these 2 together as long as I possibly can. Sierra, what should I do first? We're trying to get the variable by itself. All right, very good. We're going to go ahead and subtract 6 from both sides. Brody, what do I get when I do that on the left side?
I got left side 0. 2.
Negative 2x is still left, is greater than or equal to, and what's on the right side?
30.
30, very good. Ayana, how do I get x by itself? Very good, okay? We don't want to just divide by a 2 because our goal right now is to get rid of this whole negative 2. In order to get rid of that, I have to divide by the same exact thing. So we're going to divide by negative 2 on both sides. Nehemiah, what is 30 divided by negative 2? Negative 15. Is that my final answer, guys?
No.
What do I have to do? Why should I flip the symbol?
Because you just divided by a negative number.
Okay, very good. The last thing that I did was multiply or divide both sides by a negative number. I divided both sides by a negative, therefore I have to flip my symbol. Okay, remember that's a rule that we've got to do every single time. We're going to go ahead and graph this. What numbers should I put there?
Negative 15, negative 16, negative 15.
Okay, very good. Negative 15 goes in the middle. Negative 16 is smaller. Negative 14 is bigger. Cameron, open or closed circle?
Close.
Okay, why is it a closed circle? It has an equal sign, so it's saying the answer can be a negative 15, okay? And which direction should my arrow go, guys? To the left or the right? To the left, because what this says right here is all solutions are less than negative 15. So that means they all need to go to the left because that's our less than side. Okay, this is probably one of the most difficult problems that you'll have on your midterm. So make sure, if you don't understand it, go back through, rewatch the YouTube video that can help you to find that correct answer. Let's go on to the next one. When do you have to flip the inequality symbol? Who thinks that they know when we need to do that? Nehemiah. Very good. So when the last thing you do, if you don't have this, go ahead and write it down, is multiply or divide by a negative number on both sides. Okay, and every time if you ever have something like that, you have to make sure that you flip the symbol. All right, for this one, we've got a modeling real life problem. This is what it says. The tires on your truck will last no more than 800 miles longer. Write and graph an inequality that represents the situation. So just like before, we're going to go ahead and start with our x. Next thing, we're going to write our number. What's our number?
800
Okay, now what does that refer to? 800
miles.
Good job. So just because it's modeling real life, we're going to go ahead and put miles in there. This is the hardest part. It says it will last no more than 800 miles longer. Can it last exactly 800 miles? It can. But if it cannot be more than, it has to be less than. So the answer is going to be X, or all solutions are less than or equal to 800 miles. Let's see, William. What number should I put in the middle? Okay, and to the left?
799.
And to the right?
809.
Open or close circle?
Close.
And which direction should it go? To the left, because to the left everything is less than. Okay, any questions? Another modeling real life situation. In order to ride the Hulk at Universal Studios, you must be no less than 54 inches. Write and graph an inequality that represents the situation. Let's start with our variable. So what should we put? X. What's the number I'm going to write? 54 inches. So here it is. You can be no less than 54 inches. Could I be exactly 54 inches? Yes. Can I be less than? So what does it have to be?
More X is greater than.
Has to be greater than if you cannot be less than. Haley, how should my graph look? Okay, is this open or closed? It is closed because it can be exactly 54, and then we can see she says go to the right because all solutions are greater than 54. If I were to take this 55 and try to plug it back in up here, would this make sense? 55 is greater than 54 inches. That does make sense. So then you can understand, yay, I did do it correctly. Find the unit rate. 300 words in 4 minutes. So what we're always going to do is we're going to take the top number and divide it by what, guys? The bottom number, okay? So if they are able to do 300 words in 4 minutes, a unit rate is asking me how many can they do in 1 minute. So how do I get this 4 minutes to turn into a 1? Divide by, okay? So if I divide by 4 on the bottom, I've got to be fair and divide by 4 on the top. Because if you remember, 4 divided by 4 simply means 1. So I'm just dividing it by the number 1, which will still get me the same answer. Guys, what's 300 words divided by 4?
75 over 1.
Okay, so remember with unit rate, you want to make sure you've got units attached. So we've got 75 words per 1 minute. How many of you got that same answer? Okay, I want you to check your next one and see if you and your partner already have the same answer. All right, so whenever we're finding unit rate, we take the first number and we do what? Divide by the second number. So going over here, that's going to be 1/4 divided by 1/12. Am I allowed to divide fractions?
No.
What's the method I have to use? KFC. Write yourself a little note there so that you remember you cannot divide fractions. So we have to keep the first, flip the second, and change the operation. Can I cross-reduce anything? Yeah, what does the 4 and 12 become?
1 and 3.
1 and 3. Whenever I multiply that out, give me it with the units attached. What's the answer, guys?
3 miles over 1 hour.
Okay, 3 miles per hour. Once again, know that a unit rate, whenever you're doing it, your goal is to have the denominator of 1, and just make sure for unit rate, units are attached. Tell whether the ratios form a proportion. Who can explain to me how you got your answer for this one? Taylor, what'd you do? Okay, did anyone else do cross multiplication? All right, so Taylor, help us out to understand how you did this.
I did 6 times 18 equals 4 times 24, and then 6 times 18 is 108, and 4 times 24 is 96, so no, the proportions do not.
Okay, good job, because those do not equal each other, so the correct answer is no. They don't form a proportion. If we did the next one same kind of way, I'm gonna go ahead and multiply that and multiply this. So drop down the equal sign, 8 times 1, and what am I going to multiply on the right side?
12 times 2 thirds.
12 times I'll do parentheses, 2/3. Okay, so if it helps you, you can put over 1. Dropping down the equal sign, left side, what's 8 times 1? 8. On the right side, can I cross reduce anything?
Yes. 3 and 12.
Okay, 3 and 12 become what?
104.
Very good. And what's 4 times 2?
8.
Does 8 equal 8?
Yes.
Yes, so the answer is yes, they do form a proportion. Next up, this asks you to solve the proportion using mental math. So earlier I said there's sometimes when you can do it whichever method you want. This way, what method is it asking for? Mental math. So you have to show me some kind of work that shows me not cross products, but mental math. So here's the whole goal. I'm trying to figure out what x is. In order to do that, I have to get from a 12 to an x, which means I have to figure out what the missing link is from an 18 to a 3. How do I get from an 18 to a 3?
Divide by 6.
Divide by 6. A lot of people, as I walked around and looked, they multiplied by 6. But no, if I'm going from the left to the right, it's getting smaller. So on the bottom, I can see 18 divided by 6 equals 3. At the top, 12 divided by 6 equals 2. So your correct answer is x equals 2. So for this one, my goal is to get the x. So I've got to go from the 18, how to get to the x, which means I have to figure out how to get from a 2 to a 6. You always work toward the variable because you're trying to figure out what it is. So how do I get from a 2 to a 6? Multiply by 3, which means the bottom I've also got to multiply by 3. Once again, we're working backwards. So 14 times 3 is 42. So x equals 42. Okay, so this one specifically has asked us to use cross products. The last one was mental math, but this is cross products. So drop down the equal sign. On the left side, I'm doing 7 times 5. On the right side, this is where most people made their mistake. The 10 has to multiply everything in my x plus 5. So what is that going to happen right there, guys? What's it called? Distributive property. Please grab a candy. Excellent answer, okay? So whatever's on the outside has to be multiplied by everything on the inside. Starting at the left side, Nehemiah, what's 7 times 5? Okay, very good. 35. On the right side, Hunter, what do I get?
On the right side, you have 10x plus 50.
Excellent. Ayana, who's the best friends on the right side with the x? Okay, so we're going to keep them together as long as possible. Let's get rid of the 50. Haley, how do I do that? Not divide by 50. How do I get rid of plus 50? Subtract 50 on both sides. Class, what's 35 minus 50?
Negative 15.
Negative 15 equals, this cancels out, 10x. Sierra, how do I get x by itself? Divide by 10 on both sides. This cancels out. And what's negative 15 divided by 10? Negative 1.5. We're going to put our variable on the left side. So x equals negative 1.5. And if you wanted to, you could take this right here, plug it into the x there, and you would figure out that it also equals the same thing as 10 over 5. Modeling real life. You can type 350 characters in 75 seconds. Your friend can type 400 characters in 100 seconds. Do these rates form a proportion? So let's go ahead and do a proportion. Remember, a proportion is two fractions that equal each other. Nikki, what should my first fraction say?
350 characters over 75 seconds.
Okay, I love that she told me characters over seconds. You always want to have your units attached because it can help you to get the correct answer. Good job. Now we're going to make it equivalent to what?
100 characters over 100 seconds.
Excellent. Once again, notice characters are on top and seconds are on the bottom. All right, now what'd you do?
350 times 100 and 400 times 75.
Okay, so she's doing the cross product way. When we do that, we get 350 times 100 equals 75 times 400. All right, what is 350 times 100?
35,000.
35,000. And what about the right side?
30,000.
30,000. Do those equal each other?
No.
No. So the question is, do they form a proportion?
No.
The answer is no, because they did not equal each other.
Okay, we're done.
Okay, so once again, modeling real life. An 8-ounce steak costs $12.80. So I can know 8 ounces, the cost is $12.80. Next question, how much would a 32-ounce steak cost?
$51.
32 ounces goes on top, and then we're trying to figure out how much it costs. There's a few different ways that you could do a problem like this. For me, the easiest way seems like mental math. I'm trying to find x, so I've got to get from there to there, which means I have to figure out the missing link from getting from an 8 to a 32. How do I get from an 8 to a 32? Times 4. Guys, what is 1280 times 4? $51.20. How many of you did it by mental math? How many of you did it a different way? Who can explain to me how you did it? Did anyone do it by cross products?
No.
Okay, so listen, if I did cross products, 8 ounces per 1280 equals 32 ounces, and we don't know the amount. So for this, all you'd have to do is multiply across. 8x equals 1280 times 32. If you did it this way, what is 1280 times 32? It was $409.60. Then you divide by 8 on both sides, and you would still get the same answer, $51.20. Okay, so it does not matter to me how you get that answer. Just go ahead and show some kind of a proportion. You can use mental math or cross products to find the answer. So just as a last minute reminder, good luck on your midterm. I want everyone to do well, but please make sure you are studying to prepare for it. If you study the review sheet, these problems that we've gone over the past 3 days in class, you will do excellent. Please make sure you bring your calculator and a pencil to class if you want to use a calculator on the midterm, okay? And there's some questions you can use a calculator and some that you cannot, all right? So make sure you spend some time studying before your midterm.